Hello and welcome to the Forum8AZ md3 exporter tutorial, which allows you to bring animations created in Maya, 3D Studio Max, or motionbuilder and bring them through 3D Studio Max as a middleware and into UC Winroad so you can have fluid animations in UC Winroad. So we will begin by opening up 3D Studio Max. In this version I'm using Max 2011. This plugin also has been tested with 2010. First thing we want to do is import our FBX file, which in this case was created in Maya by Thomas Tucker and Ron Hawker of the World 16 team, so thank you for letting us use this. And you want to make sure you have the latest FBX importer-exporter for both Max or Maya, and you can get that from Autodesk's website. So when we import this, the default settings are fine. We're just going to click OK. And you will see that we have a goat here. That's what we're going to be working with, is an animation of a goat. So when we hit play on the timeline, you can see the goat walks. The first thing I like to do is figure out how long the animation is. So it starts actually at 1, so there's no animation between frame 0 and 1. And it goes to frame 40, so it goes from frame 1 to frame 40, so it's a 39-second animation. So the first thing I like to do is go to this animation control and set this to what it actually is at. So it's 1 to 40, and then click OK. And then you can play it and watch that it's fluidly will repeat, so you don't have to have it skip at the end. So we'll pause this again, and because it starts at 1 and not at 0, it's important with this exporter to actually go back into the time configuration and rescale the time, so the time actually is from 0 to 39, so it starts at 0 and not at 1. So we're just going to rescale the time, started at 0 and ended at 39. Click OK, OK, and then you can see here it starts at 0 and ends at 39 instead of at 1 to 40. So we will pause that. Now, the first step in converting this is, you notice there's two objects. It has to be a single mesh object, and then there's the bones in here as well. So the first thing we're going to do is convert this thing to an editable mesh. So when I click on the mesh, you can see in the modifier list there's a skin and an editable poly that was created in Maya with the FBX. So we're going to want to convert this to an editable mesh. You normally can right click on it and convert it, but in that case it'll collapse this stack. So what we're just going to want to do is go to the modifier drop down and pick edit mesh, and that'll convert it to an editable mesh. The second thing we want to do is select everything, including the bones, and we're going to rotate this 90 degrees counterclockwise in the Y, because Maya and Max are different in this, so we want it to be facing this way so it walks straight in UC Winroad. So we rotate that 90 degrees to the Y if it was created in Maya, like this one was. Then after that's done, we need to open up Yoshi's Max script, which you get to by clicking on the Utilities tab and then clicking on Max script and then Run script. Now you're going to look for the md3 exporter beta.ms, which was written by Dr. Yoshihiro Kobayashi, and we'll open that up. And then after you open it, in this Utilities drop down here, select the Quake 3 md3 exporter. And once this opens, it'll open up a new window over here. And the first thing that it asks you to do is the start frame and the end frame. Our start frame is 0. At this time, the start frame always has to be 0, so that's why we had to adjust the time frame. So then the ending frame is 39. We're going to select just the mesh. If we then the next step is to get the texture. We're going to click Get Texture. I'm actually going to get this from our folder. The texture is goat.jpg. So we will click on that. Then the next step asks you to set the md3 file name. And it tells you save lower.md3 file in models/players/xxx folder, where xxx is going to be the name of your md3 character. So you want to name that last folder. It's important to have this specific file hierarchy too. So we're going to click OK, and in here we do not have that created yet, so we'll create a new folder and we'll call it models. Inside that new folder, we'll make another new folder and call this one players. And inside of players, we will create a new folder and call this one goat, because that's going to be the name of the md3 file in UC Window. This is what it reads as the md3, this file name right here. So inside of goat, we're just going to follow the instructions. It's already set to save as an md3, so we're just going to type lower, click save, and now once we have that selected, you can see it automatically tells you how much the number of meshes, the number of vertices, and the number of frames. And actually 0 to 39 is 40 frames and not 39. So we're going to export the md3, and it'll take a minute. Once that unhighlights, that's all set to go. So if we open up this folder, we go to our models, players, goat, you can see that it not only put the correct texture that we needed in the file, it put the animation file in there, the head, the lower, and the upper.md3, and the skin file. So it creates all the files you need to have an md3 file. So the next step then is to actually turn this into a PK3, which is what UC Winroad reads as an md3 file. So we're going to right click it and zip it with whatever you have software to zip. I use 7-zip. So we're going to add it to models.zip. Once it creates that zip folder, we're just going to change the name. So PK3 is just a zip, it just has a different file name. So we're going to change this to goat.pk3. And yes, we do want to change it. And this goat.pk3 is the file that UC Winroad will read. So then the next step, that's all we have to do from that end. So now we open up UC Winroad. We'll go to the load. Well, first we're going to draw a flight path to put the character on. So go to the plan view, click on the flight path tool, draw a simple flight path, finish it, right click it, edit the flight path, and just click on ground. And click OK, and OK again. In this instance, I sometimes like to just turn flight paths on so I can see where my flight path is that I made, and that's where the starting node is. Put it over here. Okay, then we're going to click on the load md3 icon, which is this one, load md3 characters. We'll delete this one because we don't need it. We will load goat.pk3, and this will bring up, resize this. This will bring up this small menu where you can see the walking goat. You can see that he's walking okay. Actually, might want to slow this down a bit. He seems to be walking a little bit too fast. If he seems to slide a little, that means that he's just walking too fast for how fast he's supposed to be walking. That looks pretty good, so we'll leave it as that. Click OK. Then we're going to add a walker. Right here, default flight path is flight path 1. It's the only flight path that's made in this default file. I'm going to click OK. And in the md3 character list, you can see that there's a walker added here. And then we're just going to close this. And then if I hit the environmental movement button and zoom in, see that I have a walking goat. And now also I can do this because it's a little hard to see that right now. I can edit him. I'm going to make him a lot bigger because I'm changing that by 4. I'm going to increase this by a little bit too, so he's walking a little faster. So now when I reset this, the goat should be a lot bigger. You can see he's bobbing his head and wagging his tail and walking along in the same animation cycle that he was inside of Max and Maya. Thank you very much, and that's the tutorial on how to export md3s into UC Winroad. Have a nice day.